Karayam Apinduga and welcome to Africa Good Morning, the show that keeps you up to date with the latest news in Africa and beyond. I am Glenn Rashipura, joined by Diana Master. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Great to see you on Africa Good Morning.
Great to see you too. It's been a while since we've hosted the show together.
Yes.
But we are looking forward to it. I mean, it is a Friday. It is a great day. Now let's get into what you can expect in today's broadcast. African leaders launch 19 billion rand innovation fund at the World Economic Forum. Kenya doomsday cult leader to undergo mental health checks, and resistant Steve mosquito threatens malaria fight. We'll also be bringing you news from Zambia a little later on in the show with Mr. Mike Sichula. But for now, we'll be taking a quick break and returning with our top stories.
Getting into our top stories, a new initiative to spark Africa's startup revolution with a focus on the youth was launched on Wednesday at the 24th World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, with its headquarters set to be in Rwanda. Known as Timbuktu, the project is an African innovation fund with a 10-year set target to promote at least 1,000 startup projects with a 19 billion rand purse, with the hope of impacting about 100 million livelihoods and growing investments into a 190 billion rand economy. Rwandan President Paul Kagame, President Nana Akufo-Addo of Ghana, the Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat Wamakele Mene, and United Nations Development Program Administrator Achim Steiner presented the initiative at a WEF site event. Kagame pledged 57 million rands towards capacitating Timbuktu and said the project would be of great assistance to Africa's youth population. We cannot accept that another generation of African young people don't have the tools to reach their full potential, he said.
Getting into our next story, doomsday cult leader Paul Mackenzie and 30 of his followers were presented in a Kenyan court in the coastal town of Malindi on Wednesday to face charges of murdering 191 children. Mackenzie and the other suspects did not enter pleas because High Court Judge Mugure Tande granted a request from prosecutors that they undergo mental assessments and return to court on the 6th of February. The remains of 180 of the 191 dead children have not been identified according to the prosecution's charge sheet. Mackenzie and some of his followers have been blamed for the deaths of 429 members of his Good News International Church, many of whom are believed to have starved themselves in the belief that by doing so they would meet Jesus Christ before the world ends. The bodies were discovered in dozens of shallow graves on an 800-acre ranch in a remote area known as Shakahola Forest in the coastal town of Kilifi.
In our next story, a new species of mosquito is driving up malaria infections in Africa, fueling a growing health public concern. The Anopheles stephensi mosquito, shortened by some entomologists to Steve, has so far been detected in 7 African countries, according to the World Health Organization. The mosquito, which originated in South Asia, was first detected in Djibouti in 2012. Since then, malaria rates in the country have grown exponentially. The new species has since spread to Ethiopia, Kenya, Nigeria, and Ghana. Unlike other mosquitoes that breed in rivers and swamps, Steve is known to be an urban breeder that thrives in dry areas. It only needs a bit of moisture, like water trapped in containers, tires, and gutters, to survive. The species also bites outdoors during the day and is immune to commonly used pesticides. It is a threat in urban settings. It's a threat to our strategies in place right now because we are mostly using indoor strategies. It's also difficult to detect and is very resistant. It stays in very harsh climates and is very difficult to eliminate from any environment.
Now in some news from Mozambique, a disease unknown to breeders and veterinary authorities in Manica province killed more than 900 head of cattle in December of 2023 in the districts of Manica, Susundenga and Barue. Breeders are concerned and are hoping for an urgent response from an investigatory veterinary authorities to prevent further losses. Fernando Copena, a cattle breeder from the village of Manene in Manica district, one of the regions worst affected by the outbreak, views the situation and asks the veterinary authorities to accelerate diagnosis of the disease so that an adequate response can be identified. Copena said that the disease, characterized by lack of appetite and loss of strength, is reducing cattle numbers to an extent that may compromise food security, with farmers losing even the means to farm the fields.
Wrapping up our top stories, an overnight curfew has been imposed in the Indian Ocean nation of Comoros, the Interior Ministry said after violent protests against President Azali Assoumani's re-election. Assoumani won a fourth five-year term after the country's electoral body on Tuesday declared him the winner of Sunday's election against five opponents. The army fired tear gas to disperse protesters in Moroni on Wednesday, and protesters were still on the streets in the north of the capital in the early hours of Thursday. The Interior Ministry announced the curfew on Wednesday. A government spokesperson blamed the protest on supporters of losing candidates. These are things that happen here and elsewhere, especially when we are beaten and we contest the results, Comorian government spokesperson Hamad Mazadi told Reuters. He said several demonstrators had been arrested. At least 4 people told Reuters on Thursday that they had trouble connecting to the internet to use social media platforms because of service disruptions.
Now in Zambia, over 200 people have been left homeless after heavy rains in the Lunga district of Luapula province. This story and more news from Zambia coming up after the break with Mike Sichula. Stay tuned.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Now here to bring us the latest news in Zambia is Mike Sichula. Good morning, Mike.
Africa, good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Now, in your first story, President Hakainde Hichilema says his administration will not welcome calls for a succession being advanced by a tribal grouping. Can you get into this?
Yes, this is something that the country has been experiencing whenever there's a change of administration. So as I speak to you, there is a grouping in western part of Zambia called the Lozi-speaking people. So what they are saying is that they want the country to be divided. And so what President Lungu says is that there is no entity called Baloseland within Zambia. So this is a historical problem from time immemorial, where whenever there's a change of government, these groupings usually comes up and claims that they need to secede from Zambia to create their own country called the Baloseland within Zambia. So President Lungu has since called on the provincial permanent secretary to inform people in the region that Zambia is a unitary state. So he did, and I quote, "You do not have a country called Western Province Baloseland. We have nothing like that. It is a unitary state. I am serious. It is a unitary state where you are sitting. Remind yourselves and the people of Zambia that we are one of Zambia. We are one nation, one people. We are independent," he said. So we are yet now to see what the people advancing this cause are going to say. But usually what has happened is that every administration takes up these people into custody, and there will always be sometimes fightings here and there. But government has always been on top of things to contain the situation. So we are yet to see how the UPND administration will address this matter.
All right, now moving on, Mr. Sichula, the number of COVID cases have kept increasing, with health authorities urging people to observe health guidelines.
Yes, in a particular region in Zambia, the Copper Belt province, according to the district health official, he did tell the media that they are having at least 100 cases on a daily basis. But the good part is that these cases are being contained by health authorities. Sadly, however, just a fortnight ago, 2 days ago, one person was confirmed to have succumbed to the COVID when he was admitted. This information was confirmed by the Ministry of Health. So what the government is now battering two fronts. On one front, you have got the cholera outbreak that has claimed more than 300 people and infected close to 10,000 people. And on the other hand, the cases of COVID are also coming up. And in terms of the national picture, the picture is that close to 50 people have been admitted in isolation because of the same COVID cases. In these other regions, these are cases whereby somebody is reported to have contracted COVID, but they are not put in isolation. So this is a double-edged sword for the government. So the government has been urging people to ensure that they do not drop the guard against COVID, and on the other hand, containing the waterborne disease cholera.
Now, over 200 people have been left homeless after heavy rains in the Lunga district of Luapula province. What's being done to assist them?
Yeah, so the Lunga District Commissioner, Masis Mwewa, is the person that confirmed the extent of damage, which he said is worrying because most of the people that have been affected are small-scale farmers, and this flood is likely to create a situation that there will be hunger in the area because most of the fields have been submerged in water. Then also the disaster management and the mitigation unit in the district is yet to quantify the extent of the damage, but the same DMNU has assured people that the affected families will be supported with tents and relief food going forward. So these floods are usually, Lunga district is usually more or less like an island. It's surrounded by water. So whenever there's more rainfall, this place usually gets flooded. But there was a message from the Meteorological Department of Zambia that urged people to move to higher ground because there is expected to be a flash floods in the next 2 or 3 weeks or so.
All right, now, Mr. Sishila, moving over to some sports news. The women's hockey team has traveled to Oman to participate in the 2024 Hockey Fives World Cup, slated for the 24th to the 27th of January. Please give us more details.
Yes, the women's national team hockey arrived in Oman ahead of the 2024 Hockey Fives World Cup, slated for 24th, 27th January. So the team arrived at the airport or yesterday and were actually sent to their hotel where they'll be rest for the tournament ahead of the tournament. So Coach Freud Chomba has given a team, has assured members of the public in Zambia that the team is ready to fight for honors at the Honkies World Cup. So this honky sport has been developing speedily in Zambia because they have been participating in major tournaments across Africa and the globe. So it is something that the Hockey Federation Association of Zambia is optimistic that the team is now ready to reap for medals because of the massive development that has been taking place locally, and also there are a number of teams that have been formed locally. So it is creating a pool of competition for hockey players in the country. So the coach is optimistic that the team, once they get down to business against the hosts, Oman and Uruguay, they are expected to advance beyond the group stage into the finals and also probably fight for medals at this tournament. So it is something that hockey fans in Zambia are expectant that the team is going to perform well at this World Cup.
Thank you so much, Mike, for bringing us these stories from the real Africa.
Thank you so much, Africa. Good morning.
All right, and we'll now take a look at the weather predictions before we return with our economic news.
Neopaints has established a 67-year Namibian legacy, creating personalized paint solutions that blend quality and innovation for the Namibian people. We pride ourselves in being a 100% Namibian-owned company, investing in our country and our people by employing and empowering true Namibians. With every brushstroke, Neopaints commits to our quality guarantee and always delivering a coat of excellence. At Neopaints, we always stay true to our country. We are as Namibian as you.
Let's get into our economic news. The African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat has vowed to extend the recently promulgated free trade regime to 31 countries this year after a successful pilot project in 7 countries that happened last year. Now, the AfCFTA is the world's largest free trade area, bringing together the 55 countries of the African Union and 8 regional economic communities to create a single continental market with a population of about 1.3 billion people and a combined gross domestic product of approximately $3.4 trillion.
The Mozambican Tax Authority has confirmed that value-added tax is being charged on soap, sugar and cooking oil after 17 years in which these goods were zero-rated. Any shopper would have noted price increases for these 3 products as from the start of the year. This was inevitable after in December the Mozambican Parliament, the Assembly of the Republic, paid no attention to calls from opposition parties to renew the exemptions from VAT. To ensure that there could be no misunderstanding, the AT issued a circular confirming that the period of exemption is now over and that VAT is henceforth being charged on soap, sugar and cooking oil at the standard rate of 16%.
Let's take a look at our economic indicators before we get into your sporting news.
Of course, the group stage clashes continue at the Africa Cup of Nations. Let's take a look at some of the results. Egypt secured their second 2-2 draw, as the Pharaohs twice fought back to hold Ghana. It did come at a price though, as Mo Salah took a first half injury. Emilian Sua scored a hat-trick as Equatorial Guinea thrashed Guinea-Bissau by 4 goals to 2. Super Eagles defeated hosts Ivory Coast thanks to Truce de Kong's penalty in the second half, ending the match at 0-1. Reigning champions tonight, Senegal will face off against Cameroon at the Charles Konanbani Stadium in their second group stage match at 7 p.m. Meanwhile, Cape Verde, which is currently in first place, takes on third place Mozambique at 4 p.m. And again at 10 p.m, third ranking Guinea will take on fourth position team Gambia. And this is all tonight. These are all the matches you can expect tonight. Now for the rest of the sports news, here's Ari Hogad.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, and starting off with tennis news first. It's Australian Open, the first major of the year, and there's a few high-seeded players in the women's section of the draw that fell away in the third round, and it was firstly Emma Raducanu that lost to Quinlan Zheng. The score there was 6-3 and 6-3, but the biggest surprise was Jessica Pegula. She's a number 5 seed and she lost to Clara Bunel of France, and the score in that game was 6-4 and 6-2. Also a tough game for Iga Swiatek, the number 1 seed, as she had to fight hard to win it in 3 sets against Diane Connors of the United States. In the end, Iga Swiatek beating her by 6-4, 3-6 and 6-4 to advance to the next round. In the men's division, it is Carlos Alcaraz, the number 2 seed. He safely through to the next round, beating Lorenzo Zuniga, and that was in 4 sets. 11th seed Casper Ruud is also through, beating Mark Bussell. That was a tough game in 5 sets. And then it is Alexander Zverev of Germany. Alexander Zverev winning against Lukas Klein of Slovakia. Also a very tight game. It went to a tiebreak in the 5th set. It was 7-6 in the 5th, and it is Alexander Zverev of Germany, number 6 seed, through to the next round. Moving on to cricket news on international sports news, and a very interesting and a very competitive game in the 3rd T20 series against India, between India and Afghanistan. India winning that game, but it was very hard for them to win the game. It was in the end 2 super overs that was needed before India won, and it was India that batted first, 212 for the loss of 4 wickets, with Rohit Sharma 121 off just 69 deliveries. Afghanistan also scored 212 for the loss of 6 in their 20 overs. First super over, both 16 runs, but then in the second super over, it was India that won the game by 10 runs. It was India that fought back from being 22 for 4 early in their innings, and then 190 run partnership for the 5th wicket, especially with Rohit Sharma doing well, and it's India that won the series against Afghanistan by 3-0. In closing today's international sports news, it is soccer news from the FA Cup in England, and it is a 3rd round action. It was Everton that beat Crystal Palace by 1-0 to advance, and it is also Norwich City beating Bristol Rovers by 3-1, and then a good result also for Nottingham Forest. They beat Blackpool by 3-2. What's happening in the 4th round now? It is Everton. They're going to play against Luton Town, and it is Norwich City. They need to travel all the way to Liverpool at Anfield, and it is Nottingham Forest. They play against Bristol City. And also soccer news related to Jordan Henderson. He used to play for Liverpool. He signed for the Saudi Arabian League, but he said he didn't enjoy it there. After 6 months he's leaving. He said the standard of football is too low there, and there's a strong speculation that Jordan Henderson will join Ajax Amsterdam, and that is after being in Saudi Arabia for 6 months. That's international sports news for today. Hope you have a great sport day. Goodbye.
That was Ari with the sports news. Now, before we say goodbye, let's take a look at the highlights from earlier on. African leaders launched 19 billion rand innovation fund at the World Economic Forum. Paul Mackenzie, Kenyan doomsday cult leader, to undergo mental health checks. AFCFTA to extend free trade to 31 countries. Now on Sunday, Bafana take on the Brave Warriors at 10 p.m. and we are certainly rooting for our boys, the Brave Warriors.
Yes, and we'll have a watch party. We're very ready to give us the predictions in our comment sections. And with that, we've come to the end of the broadcast. From me, Glenn Rashipura.
And me, Diana Master, we do wish you a lovely Friday and a lovely weekend ahead.